Hello, everybody.
Yay!
Yay. We're live. Great.
Hi, Alison.
Hi, Alison.
Hi,
Susie.
Susie. Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi, Ricky. Oh, lots of people.
Rachel.
Oh,
Lots
brilliant.
of people. Hello, everybody. So in total, we've got around 50 people signed up. So at the moment, there's 20 people in the room. So we'll give it a couple of minutes just for people to set in. That's great that everyone's using the chat room to say hello. We're all set. The tech is working.
Yeah!
Thank you all for your patience. Yeah, super high fives. So yeah, it's great. It's great to see you all. We're super excited because the tech is now working. We've got rid of all the gremlins. We told them to go away. So we're all set, ready for Martha's amazing webinar, the first of many. Martha has talked about that you've got a jazz band for later on to celebrate.
Yeah, I've got a trumpet just hidden here under the desk. I actually do. There is a cornet in the house. I haven't brought it along. I should have got my 7-year-old to come and play it. Oh, do you not play it? I have a go, but it's probably want to stick your fingers in your ears.
Anyone in the chat room? Anyone play musical instruments?
I used to play clarinet.
Kathy used to play. Do you still play?
No. I mastered Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and then kind of stopped when I was about 16. Okay, so this Christmas you need to be giving us a little concert. Yeah, maybe we could get a band together. Yeah, I used to play the viola, so
Viola.
Doing Rudolph could happen.
Okay, we've got a few musicians here, which are coming through on the chat room.
Recorder.
This is good.
Yes, definitely better than last time, Janet.
Much better than last time. And we've got quite a few musicians. That's good. I thought there would be some, us all being creative. So we've now got 22 people in the room. What we'll do is, wow, Spanish guitar. This is good. Yeah, this is good. What we'll do is air guitar. Yeah, that's one. I'm good at that one as well.
Yeah, I love it.
So has everyone got themselves a drink and settled, ready for kind of sort of the webinar session? Because we'll get started in about a minute's time. Everyone saying hello? I
would love to know what people do. If you want to put that in the chat room, are you a painter or an illustrator, or what's your thing? I'd love to know.
That'd be good. Put in the chat room then what your background is, what your specialism in. All ready?
Jean's all ready.
Thanks, Jean.
Who's got biscuits? Who has got biscuits? That's an important question.
I've not got any biscuits. I've got a Satsuma. Doesn't count, does it? Doesn't count. Okay, just while
wow, that's cool.
While we just get settled and wait for a couple more people to kind of sort of come in, Kath, do you want to just say a couple of words just about the program and where we're kind of at with stuff?
Yeah, I know some of you have already had your first meetings with your mentors, which is great. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. So you can either type questions on here and I'll make a note of them. We can get to those at the end, or email me, or please do use the Facebook group as well. Has anybody here had their first meetings with their mentors? Nobody yet? No. If you guys have got questions for Martha throughout her session as well, she will be having pauses at certain points to come to those questions, and I'll be making notes of those just in case, because we've got so many people, it's easy to miss things. So if we don't see your question straight away, don't worry, we will come back around to things.
Great, and a few people have met up with their mentor, I can see, so that's good.
Yeah, good.
So I'm glad that's all moving along. Okay, so what we'll do then, let's get started. Thank you all for sharing in the chat room kind of sort of a background about who you are, what you do. I want to warmly welcome Martha, who was with us with the last program, did an amazing session there, and has helped lots of the previous participants kind of sort of out with their journey. I'm really excited about this because marketing is the hardest part of running a business for me personally. So I know that I'm going to learn a lot from today. I'm going to hand you over to Martha in a minute to kind of sort of run you through then the workshop. As Kath said, please put kind of sort of questions into the chat room, and we'll try and capture those and answer as many as we can when Martha's kind of sort of ready to take a little break and kind of sort of answer specific questions. We've also got a couple of polls which we're going to be doing, so please interact with those. It'd be great just to kind of know where everybody is in the room. And also Martha is going to be sharing a file with you and a few examples of different websites. So enjoy the session, and over to you, Martha.
Hey, we're doing it. We're live. By the magic of the internet, it's not let us down after all. So happy to be doing this first webinar for WebinArt, because last time I was involved with it, you guys taught me so much. So yeah, just feel really excited to be involved with you all, really. So I'm Martha. I'm a freelance copywriter in Leicester, and today we're going to be talking all about marketing. And I was going to say, oh, why don't you just get familiar with the chat box and put a few things in there? But you're all wild in the chat box already, so that's fantastic. So I am going to try and stop a couple of times and just answer any questions that are going on in there. So let's kick off and get the presentation started. Here we go. You should see that coming in a moment. All right, okay, so today we are talking about the world's simplest marketing plan. So just as we get going, a little bit about me, so you know who's rambling on at you for the next hour. So basically, I have got a degree in embroidery, so like fine art textiles. That is how I started out. And once I'd done that, I went to source shoes for the high street. So that basically meant going to factories in Spain and Sri Lanka and looking at the shoes on the production line and working with lots and lots of buyers from all kinds of places. So Bowden and White Company and LK Bennett, we were working with the buyers and then basically sourcing the shoes in the factories and bringing them back to sell. So that's kind of how I got started in products. So did that for quite a few years, and then I started my first business, which was probably 13 years ago now. So that is me looking kind of a bit deathly pale and hot in India, because I was working with a fair trade women's cooperative in India to make fair trade bags. And I made quite a lot of mistakes actually in that business, a lot of mistakes about marketing. Some of those I'm going to be talking to you about today. I mean, basically, I did not know what marketing was. I just thought, oh yeah, that's just like sales. It's another way of saying sales. But that was the first thing that I started. It was profitable, but we just kind of never really sold enough to get going. I went back to sourcing shoes for a bit, and then when I had my kids, I got really interested in blogging, and I got really interested in Etsy, and I was making lots of things for my children, and so I launched my own product range because I knew about product. And I was selling that not on the high street, but it was so hard to get found online and to sell things online. And it just made me really, really passionate about helping other makers and creative people to get found online. So with that blog, that led to starting to write craft tutorials for a much bigger blog in the States, and then getting paid to do that. At which point I thought, hang on a minute, it's easier actually and better for me to be writing about product than it is to be designing and making it. So that is how I became a copywriter, a copywriter for creative businesses, because writing is just kind of easier for me and way more fun. So I'm just really passionate about working with creative businesses, because creative people, you're my kind of people. You just inspire me, and yeah, just really want the world to know how good you are, really, and to be able to fall in love with what you do. So at the moment I'm working with Folksy. You might have heard of Folksy. It's like a sort of UK Etsy, I guess. I'm working with them on content for their blog and other webinars as well. I was at Top Drawer in January doing a panel talk about what makes the best-selling product. I'm working with a couple of branding and communication agencies in Leicester, and then lots and lots of independent, fantastic, creative businesses online. So as we go along today, I've got quite a few resources to share with you. I think Dan's going to be posting those links in the chat box, so you can go along and look at those later. And we'll put all of those in the Facebook group as well. I've got some books as well that you might like. So we'll just make sure that you've got access to all that stuff as well at the end of the webinar. All right then, so let's get going. I want to tell you what's on the agenda. So marketing, I think that marketing probably isn't what you think it is. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about why you do what you do and who you do it for, who's your customer. Then we're going to become customer detectives. We're going to, like our Sherlock Holmes hat and glasses on, and become customer detectives. So yeah, some good marketing examples, some genius marketing examples to share with you as we go along. And then hopefully by the end, you're going to be making your own simple plan. So what you'll learn from this webinar, I hope that by the end of it, you're going to have just a new attitude to marketing. You're going to really look forward to getting to grips with your marketing. I'm going to give you actual practical steps to find your why you do what you do and who you're doing it for. And then, like I said, we are going to hopefully make a simple plan. Now, let me just stop this presentation for a minute. Okay, what I want to do is I want to bring up the first poll. So this is kind of a chance for you to get involved and have your say. So let me bring this up now, start a poll. All right, so the question here is, how confident do you feel about marketing your work? So you can actually have a vote now. Just let me know how confident you feel. Are you super confident? Are you fairly confident? Are you a little bit confident? Are you not very confident? Or are you desperate? Okay, and if you're desperate, that is completely fine. Because if I go back to when I started that fair trade bag business from India, I was kind of desperate. I didn't know what I was doing with marketing. So it's fine, just kind of have your say. Okay, so we've got mostly not very confident or a bit confident, and a few in the desperate category. That's fine, totally feel you. Okay, so 50% not very confident. I really hope that by the end of this, you're going to be all in the fairly confident bracket, or even the super confident bracket. Okay, brilliant. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. All right then. So if we move on, first of all, to some marketing myths, okay? So there might be some things that you're believing about marketing that I just think aren't true, okay? So I want to bust these myths straight off. So there's a great guy, one of my favorite guys on the internet, is a guy called Paul Jarvis. So definitely go and check him out, www.pjvrs.com, bit of a weird website, but he's absolutely brilliant. So Paul Jarvis said, you don't hate marketing, you hate what you think marketing is. You don't really hate it, you just kind of think you hate what it might be. All right, so let's talk about these 3 things that we might believe about marketing. They're actually not true. So number 1, if my work is good enough, it'll sell itself. If my work is good enough, it will sell itself. Okay, so I'm just coming out of that so that we can talk face to face. So I think that often in business, people think if they've made something really, really good, then customers will somehow just, I don't know, they'll just find it. They'll find it through the ether and they'll want to buy it because it's a really, really good thing. And then they'll put that good thing on their good website and they expect lots of customers to come. And then that doesn't happen. And then you might start to feel despondent, like, oh no, my work's not very good, or no one's really interested in what I do, or I think I'm actually more rubbish than I thought. And that is almost certainly not true. It's just that literally customers didn't know that you'd done the thing, that they literally did not know where to find it, okay? So I think we think that it's customers' jobs to come and find us and come and find what we do, but that is not true. It's not true. It's actually our job to go out and to put ourselves in front of them. It's not their job to find us. I don't think that we can really expect people to kind of fall in love with what we do, even if it's like the most groundbreakingly amazing thing. If they literally just don't know about it, if they've literally just never heard of it, they can't fall in love with it. Now, I know if you're creative, because I've felt this myself, it can be a little bit of a barrier to kind of put your work out there, because you poured your blood and sweat and guts and soul into it. So then the idea that you've got to put it out there into the world can be, I think it can be a little bit intimidating. So here's a good book recommendation for you. Oh, it's back to front in my camera, but that doesn't matter. So this is a really good book called Show Your Work by a guy called Austin Kleon, who's an artist. Just give you a little flick inside. It's really cool. It's got like cool typography and funny little charts inside it. And this book is so great. If you feel nervous about kind of sharing your work and showing people your work, it's got 10 things on the back, 10 ways that you can show your work. Because the truth is, if we want people to know about what we do, we want to sell what we do, we're going to have to put it in front of people. So that is the first thing. No matter how good your work is, if people literally haven't heard about it, they won't be able to fall in love with it. And if they haven't fallen in love with it, then they won't be able to buy it. Right, let's go back into the presentation. Hopefully you'll see that coming up. Oh yes, right, the second myth. I need to do fake cheesy sales patter to do marketing. Okay, so you might feel like, actually, if you're going to do marketing, that you've got to be like a kind of dodgy double glazing salesman, and it's all got to be like bog off offers. I don't know why I'm doing that dodgy London accent. Right, so you might think it's got to be like discounts all the time, and you've got to talk in this sort of icky yucky way where you hoodwink people into buying your stuff, and that is absolutely not true. I want to tell you that when you do marketing, you totally get to be yourself. So Paul Jarvis, going back to Paul Jarvis, talks a lot about trust marketing, that actually people want to buy things from you when they trust you. And that's where the internet is amazing, because it gives you the opportunity to find your like-minded people, the people that are going to really be interested specifically in what you do. So there's quite a widely shared idea now that actually you only need like 1,000 true fans. You don't need everybody in the universe to love what you do. You need 1,000 true fans. I think it was a guy called Kevin Kelly who wrote about this about 10 years ago, and now this idea is really widely shared. But basically it's saying that if you just kind of find your tribe, find your group of people who really resonate with you being yourself, then that's perfect. Okay, some people aren't going to like it. That doesn't matter. You don't need to appeal to everybody. You just need to be yourself, and you need to get to know people and let them trust you. Here's another great book. Seth Godin. He's like the goddaddy of marketing. So you should go and read his things. Seth Godin. He wrote this book called Tribes. So I'll ask Dan to put the link to that as well in the chat box and in Facebook group afterwards. It says here on the back, without leaders, there are no followers. You're a leader. We need you. So this book is kind of encouraging you to kind of go out there. The internet's a great place to find those particular people that are really going to resonate with you being yourself. Not this icky, yucky, fake, buy one, get one free kind of stuff. That's not marketing. Marketing is going to be you getting to be yourself. Right, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so third myth then that I want to bust for you is marketing is what I do when I've done the other more important things. So you may be feeling like, you know, I've got commissions to do, I've got a product range to finish, marketing is going to have to wait because those are important. And they are really important, but they might be kind of making you shove your marketing further down the to-do list than it should be. Or it might be that actually you're just not really sure what to do about marketing. So that's why the reason that you put it on the back burner. But I want to really say to you that you should probably be spending at least, a quarter, even half of your time just telling people about what you do. And marketing works really, really well when it's consistent. So you keep turning up in the places where your customers are, and you keep consistently giving them your message in lots and lots of different ways. And when you do that consistently, you get on their radar. So it's not less important than design or making. It's actually as important, maybe even more important. So you can be massively creative doing your marketing. You get to be yourself, okay? It's vital to your business, and you can absolutely do it. All right, so when it comes to thinking about doing your marketing, there's probably, there's really only two main things that you've got to start to think about. And the first one of those is why you do what you do, okay? Why do you do what you do? And the second thing is, who are you doing it for? All right, so I want to tell you about a guy called Simon Sinek. Okay, so he basically did a legendary TED talk called Find Your Why. I'll start with why. And I'm going to ask Dan to share that link in a minute in the chat box. Oh, he's done it. There you go. So basically, Simon Sinek draws like this target thing. He draws this circle, and right in the middle, he puts why, and then he puts how and what on the outside circles. Definitely go and watch that video when you've got the chance, because what he says is that most people start out talking about the what of their business. And actually, they should be talking with the why, starting with the why. And he uses Apple in a really clever example. So just to really sort of ground that for us, I want to give you two examples. Just going to pause this presentation for you a minute. Okay, so examples here. This is an example of me talking to you about my business. So I might say to you, if I was starting with the what, I might say to you, so I write people's websites using keyword tools because it's really good fun. Would you like me to write your website for you? And you might think, no, maybe. Or if I started with the why, I might say to you, I just believe that creative people make the world go round, and they inspire me so much. And that's why I love to write copy and write websites for creative businesses. Would you like me to write yours? And hopefully, I hope that you might see that kind of second example, starting with the why of what you do, is more compelling for people because it connects with you. So start maybe with changing your mindset and finding your why. Marketing isn't necessarily about your product. It's much more about why you do what you do. So there's also another great brand called Hyatt Denim. Completely obsessed with Hyatt Denim. So Dan's got the link to Hyatt Denim. Hyatt Denim are so cool. So this is a brand that was actually started by the same guys that started Howie's, which was like an outdoor clothing kind of skate brand lots of years ago, probably 20 years ago. And basically they moved back to Cardigan in Wales, where they're from, and they've reopened this denim factory. So a lot of people lost their jobs over there in Cardigan in this factory. It closed down, and they've gone back there, and basically they're bringing the town back to life by making jeans. And if you go to their website, Hyatt Denim's site, you'll find it says, do one thing well. It doesn't say we make jeans. It says do one thing well, because their why is all about craftsmanship. It's all about sustainability. It's all about bringing Cardigan back to life. So it's a really, really good example of finding a why and kind of expressing that in marketing. Now, I know that finding the why of what you do is it's not like a 30-second question where I just say, oh, what's your why? And you just answer. It's a thing that you probably need to think about in time and really delve into. And that's totally okay. I think it would evolve for you over time. It definitely has with me. So another great resource is this podcast, the Grow with Soul podcast, which was started by Kate Ferris. So Dan, if you could put the Grow with Soul podcast link in the chat box as well, that would be great, because this is another one to look up afterwards after this webinar. But if you go to the Grow with Soul podcast, the very first episode that Kate made is about finding your why, and she can literally kind of walk you through the steps that can help you to find it. And I really hope that you can, because I think that once you've found the why of what you do, it just makes life so much easier. Like decisions will get so much easier for you because you know what you stand for. It's also really easy as well to diversify your product range, because instead of saying, for example, in your marketing, instead of saying, oh, I sell eco-friendly dishcloths, you might start to tell people that you spent your whole childhood on an allotment with your granddad, for example, and he showed you where food came from, and that made you care about the environment. It's just that you happen to make dishcloths, and then you can diversify into making aprons or a bamboo tea caddy, or I don't know, I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head. But can you start to see about a why, about how actually that can be the root of your marketing? Okay, I'm going to pause and draw breath. Let's just have a look in the chat box at this point. I'm not sure if there are any questions that you want to ask so far. So if you've got a question, don't be afraid to put that in. I'm conscious that I've given you quite a few resources to look up afterwards, but they are really, really good and helpful things. So definitely just take your time with those. Are there any questions that I've maybe missed? Let me have a quick look up and down. Okay, so yeah, anything you want to say, that's fine to put it in. Oh, does anyone want to share their why? That's a good question. Does anyone feel like they already know that, why they do what they do? So as I kind of said to you, I just am inspired by creative people, and I'm passionate about helping creative businesses and product makers to get found online. So that's my why. That's literally the thing that would get me out of bed in the morning. It does get me out of bed. I love to get up and kind of go out and help people get found online. And we'll just keep thinking about that. Let's just go back into the presentation for a moment. Right. Okay. So you should be able to see that, hopefully. So we've talked about why. The second thing, this is the second kind of fundamental pillar of marketing, is who. Who are you doing it for? Okay, do you really know your customer? Now, as creative people, I think it's quite likely that when we approach our business, especially if it's about a business about making products, we approach it in terms of what we want to do. So I might say, for example, I love knitting baby socks. So I think I'm going to try and sell these baby socks that I'm knitting. And I want to suggest to you that that is maybe a little bit back to front. Okay. The other thing that I want to say, I'm going to come out of this for a second so I can just talk to you again. The other thing that I really want to say is, you know, if you knit baby socks and you never end up selling any of them, I still think that that has absolutely got innate kind of value. I don't think that you have to sell a thing that you do or make for it to be valuable. If you're creative, if you make things, as far as I'm concerned, that's already really, really valuable. So please don't measure the goodness or the worth of what you do just by money. But having said that, if you do want to sell your work, you need customers. And, you know, if you're going to have customers, then you've got to think about those customers and what they like. Now, last year on WebinArt, somebody said to me, if I change my art or I change my work for a customer, then I think that that is just like me selling out. So I heard that last year. And I just really want to say that I don't really believe in this notion of selling out, because I think that if you are using your work or your art to kind of answer somebody else's problem or kind of satisfy an aspiration, or a desire that somebody else has, that isn't selling out. That's beautiful. That's you using like a God-given talent for the benefit of someone else. So I'm not really sure about this notion of selling out. I think that might be a little bit narrow. I actually think that actually using what you do and connecting that in a way to help a person is a wonderful thing. Okay, so that's just a little word about customers. If we're going to sell our work, we're going to need customers, and we're going to need to know a lot about them as well. So instead of thinking about me, what I want to make, we need to twist our thinking a little bit and think about them or you, the customer. Now, let's just move on to the next slide. Okay, it's all very well, I guess, me saying know your customer. The question is, how on earth do I get to know my customer? Or what if I actually haven't sold anything yet? What if I haven't got a customer? Well, don't worry if that's the case. That's absolutely okay. If you have got a customer, you've sold to someone previously, I think there is no substitute for talking to somebody face to face, okay? And if you're talking face to face, you really want to know, or you want to uncover what their struggle is. You want to try and understand their struggle or the desire that they have or an aspiration. So if you've already had a customer in the past that you could get in touch with, maybe offer them like a freebie or something in return, and see if you can just ask them a few questions. And if you find that prospect really, really scary, I want to suggest to you that actually it is better. I think it's better to be scared for a few minutes at a time, rather than kind of going on for a long while, never kind of daring to ask a potential customer face to face some questions, and never really kind of getting anywhere with your work and selling your work because you haven't asked and you haven't heard from the horse's mouth about your customer. Be scared for a few minutes, okay? Because the information that you will get from a real life customer is going to be amazing, and you can keep building and building and building on that. Okay, so if you haven't had a customer before, then that is absolutely fine, because what you can do is you can start with your best guess. So your best guess might be a person that you know, that you could talk to, and yeah, just start with your best guess of what you think your customer might be like, but definitely do consider it. Start to understand what their life looks like. Where do they go? What do they read? What do they like? What do they hate? What are they struggling with? How do they spend their evening? What time do they go to bed? Because once you start to understand these things about customers, you can start to structure everything around them, from your product to your what social media platform you're on, to your packaging, all these different things. Right, I'm just going to hop back into the chat box. Okay, so there's a really, really good podcast with some quite pointed kind of questions for you to start thinking about getting to know your customer. That podcast, Dan, maybe you can put this in the chat box. So that's the Fizzle podcast, Knowing Your Customer. That is a really, really, really good one to go and listen to start to get to know people. All right, someone else to look at for a business that knows their customer so well is Selfridges. Selfridges is a business a little bit close to my heart, actually. So the why of Selfridges is that they promise to surprise and amaze and amuse their customers with extraordinary customer experiences. Their customer is someone who loves to feel inspired and someone who loves new things. And I would say that Selfridges does definitely attract that kind of luxury loving customer, but there's also just tons and tons of room for people who want to see something different and brand new. And that why, in partnership with that who, just rings true across everything that they do. If you go into Oxford Street store, Oxford Street Selfridges right now, you will see they have built an entire indoor skate ramp. It's the coolest thing. So they've built this entire indoor skate ramp, and it's just to kind of be something special and extraordinary, because they know that their customers love to see that and expect that from them. And then very cleverly, they've put all these kind of skate brands and bits and bobs all around the skate ramp. So you know, if you go to Selfridges, you're going to see something really fresh, probably first in the country, in their store. They're forever putting on pop-up events in the store, live interviews. They've got a good mix of high-end product and new products. The service is amazing. You don't feel like, oh, I have to be really posh to shop here. They're super attentive. They make you feel really welcome, and even down to the packaging. So when the parcel arrives from Selfridges, if you buy something, the parcel arrives, it'll be wrapped in this nice crispy yellow and white tissue paper with all these kind of wow stickers all over it. It all falls into line with their why and their who. And as a result, Selfridges has built this really, really iconic brand and business that's kind of booking trends all over the high street where people are falling down. They're just kind of booking all the trends because they know exactly why they do what they do, and they know exactly who they do it for, and they keep putting that message out again and again. Right, let me stop the presentation again. So don't worry if that's disappeared for you. So just for a minute, I want to go into the chat box. Now, I feel like there are, okay, I'm going to just read out a couple of comments in here. Let's see what Ben has written. I think my why is to do with the pressure to always put your business out there online. Blogs and social means there's a content gap to fill. We'd love to express ourselves and put the excitement of our business into our messaging, but it takes a lot of time. That is true. It does take a lot of time. I want to relieve that pressure by helping people to fill the gap with regular and relevant content. I mean, that is brilliant, because that is exactly, Ben, you're talking about fulfilling a need. And it's absolutely brilliant, because people have got a problem. There is a real problem now with having to feel like you've got to kind of keep churning out content. And people don't have time. When you're running a business, you don't have time to do everything. So if your why is basically to take away pressure from people so they can do that, I think that's brilliant. Okay, anything else that I've missed? Just going to scroll down. Oh, there's so many things in here. Becky, hello, Becky. One of my whys, I just like doing workshops and community projects because I like to empower people through creativity. That's brilliant that you already know your why. Keep going back and getting hooked in to that why, and let that why let you be yourself, and let that why drive the things that you do. Yes, what I wanted to say as well about this webinar is, I think maybe a lot of the time people are looking for a silver bullet with marketing. I think sometimes the expectation is just tell me what platform to be on. Just tell me how to use Facebook ads. Just tell me this. And I just really want to I want to liberate you in a way. The reason this webinar isn't that is because all of the answers to do with marketing are to do with you, and to do with who you are and who your customer is. So it's really a case of, once you start to work these core things out, the practical things about social platforms or how you market will start to fall into place. They will, I promise you. Right, I'm going to go back to the presentation. All right, so let's just start again. We've talked about how on earth do I get to know my customer. Hopefully you've got some ideas there. So what happens now? You've talked about your why. Sorry, you've thought about your why, and hopefully you've started to think about your who. What happens now is that you become a customer detective. You get your Sherlock Holmes cap and glasses on. So I want to kind of walk you through an example. So say, in this example, say for example that I illustrate children's cards, all right? So my customer profile is going to be a frazzled mum with little children. That's me in the picture looking, well, I think I'm trying to look glamorous for Christmas, but that's my second son with his nose stuck in my shoulder. And I can tell you that I was truly frazzled at that point. So you illustrate children's cards. The customer is a frazzled mum with little children. As you start to get to know her, you realise she's very, very tired. She's got way too many things to do. And she's got all these friends with 3 and 4 and 5-year-old children and all these birthdays to remember. So bearing that in mind, you think about the fact that you illustrate children's cards and you think, oh, you know what I could do? I'm selling all my cards in packs of 1. But because she's got all these birthdays to remember, why don't I start to sell my cards in packs of 10? Then she'll always have a card in the drawer ready for the next birthday. So now your customer is falling a little bit in love with you. Then you think to yourself, okay, that customer, she's really, really busy. So what I could do is I could offer this service where I actually start to send the card on her behalf, because maybe that will take like a bit of pressure off her. So then she's falling a little bit more in love with you. Then you find out from talking to the customer, this customer, she loves cards with age numbers on. And you look at your range of children's cards and you think, what I've done here is I've illustrated all the things I like to illustrate. I haven't got any age numbers. So then you start to put age numbers on your cards because you're letting your customer inform your design. And then you find out that your customer, she's always on Instagram, and actually you're not on Instagram. So, okay, you better get an Instagram account and you start to post your children's cards on Instagram with all the hashtags that she's using and her friends are using. And then when you're hanging out on Instagram one day, you realise all her and her friends are talking about, they're all just raving about this new gift shop. And you think, hang on a minute, if they all love this new gift shop, maybe the way to get myself in front of them even more, to get one step closer to each other, is for me to ring the owner of that shop and see if they'll take a look at my cards. So can you start to see how knowing your customer and thinking about your customer and being a customer detective is really starting to inform the things that you do? Quick word about platforms like Etsy and Not on the High Street, which are fantastic and folksy. They're really great, but what they don't do is they don't give you that direct access to customers. And the more that you can get to know your customer and the things they hate and the things they love and the things they need, you can really start to tailor your marketing. Okay, I'm just going to stop the presentation for a minute. So yeah, you can really sort of tailor your marketing, and you can really stretch your marketing to tell your customer what you do in a myriad of ways. So if your customer is always reading glossy magazines, your marketing strategy might be, oh, I think what I'll do is I'll start to work with this niche PR agency. I'll put a little bit of money aside every month and pay this PR agency to get me in the magazines, because that's where my customer is. Or you might start to think, all my customers are at trade fairs. That's the truth. If I want customers, they're at trade fairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself together with just the smallest stand at this relevant trade fair, and that's going to be my goal, so I can get myself in front of them. So just another way of marketing. Or what else? I don't know. They're just the options are so limitless once you start to use your imagination and just think in the shoes of your customer. You start to get an idea about how you could market. So I have got another poll for you, just to kind of get us in the zone. Right, I'm going to bring this poll up now. Oh, start a poll. Here we go. So this is the second poll. There's another chance for you to join in here. So let me publish this for you. This is just, you know, this might take a little bit more thought. That's absolutely fine. But based right now on what you've heard and who you think your customer might be, I've given you some options there about marketing. Have a look at those channels. Which of those do you think might start to work well for you? Could it be a trade fair? Do you think your customers are just all over social media and you've got to concentrate on that? What about PR? PR means getting you in the press, getting you in the papers and the magazines. Or could it be something else completely? So just have a little think at those. Why don't you cast a vote on those? I won't hold you to it if you then change your mind, but just have a little think. So quite a few, that's so interesting about email marketing. So email marketing Oh no, there's a bit of a switch now to trade fairs. They're 50-50. Exhibitions. Email marketing's winning again. Okay, I've got 2 questions that I would love to ask you in the chat box. So some people are still voting. Okay, 2 questions. If you voted for something else, would you be kind and share your something else idea in the chat box? I'd love to know what that is, if you're willing to share that. And if you voted for email marketing, I'd love to know why, because I do think that email marketing is a super effective way of getting to know customers. But I'd love to know why, in particular, you voted for email marketing. Okay, that's quite an interesting split. All right, well, just a little bit of fun to get you thinking. I'm going to end the poll right there. Right, okay, where are we up to? Right, let's go back into the presentation. We're gonna start to bring everything together now. So we just go back into here. You should see that coming up now. So we've talked, to recap, we've talked about why, we've talked about who, we've talked about becoming a detective. What do I do now? So I want to send you away with some practical things that you can do now. So here's what you do. You start with a goal. It might be a monthly goal, it might be a quarterly goal. On my blog, if you go to my blog, apologies, I've not put the link in because I just thought of this now, but I've got a goal setting worksheet that I made back in January. You don't have to do that as a New Year thing. You could start any time, but have an idea of where you're headed. Because if you don't have an idea of where you want to head to, how are you going to know when you get there or not? So start with a goal and then just work back from it in tiny steps. So use your marketing to take you towards that goal. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do now is share the worksheet that I made for you. So let me just, not sure if I have to stop this. I will stop this. Right, so if I go to the file, I'm going to try and share this file with you now, the world's simplest marketing template. So I've just shared that now. So you can actually download that file. If you just click on download the file, I'm hoping that you'll be able to get the template that I made for you, which is for you to start and fill in. So I've made one example, which I'm going to talk through in a moment. And then there's actually another sheet there that you can print out and you can start to work on for yourself. It's very, very simple because it doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, so just to talk you through it, hopefully you've got a sheet like this that I'm just going to walk you through right now. So on the top of that marketing template, I've put the why. So in this example, just going back to the children's cards, I've said my why is to bring colourful kids illustration into everyday life. So I'm an illustrator and I've decided that, yeah, children are children. Why shouldn't they have the best, most colourful illustration in their everyday life? That's my why. My who, I've said that my who is mums with children under the age of 5. It might be dads, it might be grandmas. I've just picked mums because I'm being really specific about my audience. I've picked mums with children under the age of 5, so it's quite a targeted audience. And for my goal on this marketing template, I've decided, right, this month I want to sell 10 packs of cards. And then it's simply just a case of working backwards from that goal. So how am I going to sell 10 packs of cards this month? I've got to get people into my storefront. Well, how am I going to get them into my storefront? Well, I've got to make sure they actually know my storefront is there, that it exists. So how am I going to get them to know that it exists? Well, what I'll do is I'll post my why every day on Instagram because that's where my customers are. I will post my why just in different ways on Instagram every day. That will be a start. Anything else? Well, I want to keep in touch and talk to customers on email as well. How am I going to do that? By collecting email addresses on my website. How am I going to do that? Well, by driving traffic to my website from social media. Can you just see? It's just a series of logical steps backwards from your goal. So I'll stop file sharing that now, but again, that will be available afterwards. If you've missed that, don't worry about that at all. Let's go back into the presentation for a moment. So that is how you start and bring things together. You don't have to use this template. You might have, you know, other ideas about how you want to do it. But if you get these basic fundamental things in place, the why, the who, the goal, and then working backwards in tiny steps, you will be streets ahead with your marketing. Oh, right, okay. Pausing for breath. Right, guys, so we're basically kind of coming to the end of this webinar now. I am going to go back in a minute into the chat box and look at questions again. So if you have got anything at all that you want to talk about or ask, then do just pop that in there. But just to recap and the takeaways, focus on why and who. I feel like I've said that about 100 times. I'm just saying it again. Focus on why and who. Always know why you're doing something. Work backwards from your goal. If it feels fake, if it feels horrid, if it feels like, who's that dodgy double glazing guy? Vincent Gold, have you seen that program? White Gold. Oh, he's so awful the way he tries to talk and sell things. If it feels like that, if it feels yucky and icky and fake and horrid, and it's not you, you don't do it. Yeah, you get to be yourself. You get to dare to do things your own way, because some people are going to love that, and they are absolutely going to connect with that. All right, if you want to ask me anything after this webinar, you find me quite a lot on Instagram at The Stitch Writer. My website is www.thestitchwriter.com, and I'm sure as well that Kath sent out my email address on the directory. So if you want to have a go at the simplest marketing template that I made and send it to me, just email it to me. I'd be delighted actually to have a look at that and talk to you about that. Right, let's head back to the chat box. Okay, Dan, are there any questions that I've missed? Oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about this. Why you pick something else? Like to produce a physical direct mail piece to target specific customers directly. Yes, Carol, so that is a great idea. If you knew exactly who your customers were and you had ways that you could target them directly and you could make something that they loved. I mean, imagine if you could make something that they were literally sitting by the letterbox waiting to pop through every month. That would be amazing. That's the kind of customers that you're after. Okay, what else have we got in here? Email marketing. Yeah, okay. Email marketing, because many of my customers don't like going onto Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, I think that Facebook and Instagram can work well if you kind of target one, as long as your customer's there and you target one platform at a time. I think we feel too much pressure to be everywhere all the time. So I think, yeah, it's a noisy world out there, isn't it? So a lot of people are like, oh, I can't fed up with Facebook or fed up with Instagram, just getting bombarded by things. And email marketing is amazing if you can start to get into that, because you're getting direct access into somebody's inbox. So it's a great way to start a conversation with people as well. Okay, any other questions? Susie, I struggle with finding where my customers are. Okay, so Susie, I think what I would say about that is start with your best guess. Start with your best guess of a customer and see if is there anybody that you know that fits that demographic, and then start to ask them, you know, what do they read, or where are they online, or are they just basically interested? Are they interested in the kind of thing that you've got, or do you need to tweak that slightly and start to build up a picture from your best guess, and then you will start to find out where your customers are. Okay, my worry about emailing is GDPR. GDPR is a big thing. The thing you need to remember about email and GDPR is that you need people's consent, and you can get that on a paper form. You can get that. I've got a little box on my website that people need to tick. As long as you have consent and people understand what they're signing up for. Okay, GDPR is more complicated than that, but that is the kind of crux of it when it comes to email and GDPR. How is the best way to get email addresses though? Oh, that's such a great question, Jean. That is like a question for a whole other webinar. Personally, I collect email addresses on my website. and I market my websites by kind of networking with other. So, for example, with Folksy, when I work with Folksy, I love working with Folksy because I just believe in them anyway. But every time I write for them, they put a link back to my websites. And so their audience is kind of connected to me in that way. And so I collect the email addresses on my website. And you can be moving people towards your website from your social media, or just if you're giving out information face-to-face at a craft fair or a market or a trade fair, that is a good way to be collecting email addresses. Okay, Catherine's a jeweler who's got a Facebook shop, no website, and it works really well, selling a marketing platform. Okay, that's brilliant. Her customers are on Facebook. She can talk to them on Facebook. She can sell. I don't know anything about Facebook. Well, I wouldn't have a clue, but it doesn't matter, because if that works for somebody, then that's a great thing to do. Becky, let's see your question. Do you think a blog is a good way for you to gather possible customers, a way for them to get to know you, your work, your life? Yes, Becky, 100%. I do think so. I absolutely love writing a blog, and we're going to meet, and I'm looking forward to that, so we can talk about this in person. But you can use a blog in so many brilliant ways. You can find out what people are searching for. You can use keywords then in your blog posts. You can do that to capture Google traffic, and you can do a mix of that, looking for very targeted traffic with keywords, as well as, this is just behind the scenes of my workshop. This is the thing that I'm working on. I do think blogs are good still, in combination with other things that you might do. And blog isn't now like it was when they started. It's not the be all and end all, because lots of people have got blogs, but I write a blog. I try and write it every week. So I do think that that is a good idea. Right. Guys, I think we might be done. I think that's kind of all I have to say for now. I just want to thank you so much for coming along, and thank you so much as well for bearing with us as we got through the kind of webinar jam technical hitch. So Dan, don't know if you're yeah, hello. Just anything at all, guys. If you want to email me, I'm not really on Facebook, but if you want to email me, I'd be so delighted to answer any more questions or look at anything you have.
No, well, thank you so much, Martha. That's really great. Obviously, there's loads to think about and loads of resource. I love, asking people's why is a really important one. And I can imagine for quite a few people, you need to reflect on that and ask people, talk to your friends, families, people that you work with. And that's a really good way to kind of sort of help. But thank you from us all. I can see in the chat box, everyone's kind of putting thank you, Martha, and you're amazing as always. Really informative and really kind of engaging. So thank you all for joining us, guys. Carry on the conversation in the Facebook group. Let's share our whys there, and kind of we can all give each other a bit of feedback and think about how we can turn those whys into also reaching our customers and engaging them with sales. But it starts with that why, which I completely agree. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday. We've got then our first masterclass with Joe, so we're going to be going live on the Facebook group. So thank you all for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
All the best then, guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.